Now available in paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, A Thorn in My Side. The man who rules the world takes on an agent from the CIA from the Black Boyega in this all-new John Haynes series adventure. Get your copy of John Haynes' A Thorn in My Side in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere. Better get the coleslaw, y'all, cause we're having us a barbecue. Actor John Boyega is out complaining about Star Wars One Mo Gin. Now, recently, actor John Boyega called out Star Wars for being so white during an interview as part of a new Apple TV documentary called Number One on the Call Sheet, Black Men Leading in Hollywood, and complained about the way he was treated in the Star Wars sequel trilogy movies. Now, John Boyega was extremely upset about the way he was treated in the Star Wars sequel trilogy movies, calling them the whitest, most elite space, a franchise that's so white that a black person existing in it is considered something, and is basically he was upset because of the way he was not only treated on the set of the Star Wars movies, but was also upset about the way he was treated by what he believed to be racist and toxic fans. Now, what John Boyega is looking for is sympathy from the public as related to the way he was treated in the Star Wars sequel trilogy, where he played Finn, a janitor who was given the promise of possibly being on the road to being a Jedi in the trailers for the Star Wars sequel trilogies, movies like The Force Awakens, but eventually, as he was shown in the trilogy, to be a bumbling, stumbling, incompetent character who was basically considered to be a bait and switch for Rey, and after being this bumbling, stumbling character, he wound up becoming completely irrelevant as related to this whole film at building up his career. Now, this is why John Boyega is really bitter about the whole situation as related to Star Wars, and while I can understand his frustrations regarding this whole situation, he really doesn't get much sympathy from me, and he doesn't get much sympathy from me as related to this whole Star Wars situation and the whole situation he's dealing with, because he was the one who basically agreed to be a part of this whole franchise. He got mesmerized and spellbound to go out here and star in the role of Finn. And as he got mesmerized, he thought he was going to create a covert contract where this role was going to lead to him being able to propel himself into stardom. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. And as he's had to deal with the whole backlash as related to this whole situation, he's frustrated about, again, there not being many opportunities for black men in franchises like Star Wars. Well, my advice to John Boyega is to just suck it up, because when it comes down to these franchises like Star Wars, these franchises were mainly escapes made by white men for white men, and made to present their ideals as related to their fantasies as related to them being white. So that's why Star Wars is a white and elite space, as he calls it. It was never a space made for black men. And basically, when they went out here and brought in characters like Lando Calrissian and Mace Windu, they were basically tokens put into the story. Tokens put into the story to basically be in the background of the story to make it look like, again, passively they were including black people, but aggressively they were tokenizing black people so that they would not be labeled as racist. So that's when, if you go on a franchise with what's related to these white characters, again, this is where they're going to put you as related to their business, because their business is, again, about elevating the white man and the white woman as the ideal, and they're not about looking to, again, empower any black person in their fantasy medium. No, they're not about looking to empower any black people as related to their fantasy medium, and sitting there whining and complaining about it is just a waste of of John Boyega's time. Now, he should have taken a look at that script and seen how this FN character was eventually became Finn was basically, again, an insult to black people. I mean, here you have a black stormtrooper again playing the role of a janitor. This is a racist stereotype from the beginning, and he's at the side of Rey, who I basically call Missy Ann. And again, he meets Rey, and Rey has no respect for him, and that basically plays to the old stereotypes of Al Jolson and Shirley Temple. They don't see him as a human being, but he was just there to be filler, and he was there to be filler to again make Rey the center of the story. Basically, they saw him like the droids in the original Star Wars, just there to be a plot device to move the story forward, and didn't see him as an actual character. But he's sitting there again complaining, okay, they're okay with you playing the best friend. You weren't even a best friend, you were just a joke throughout the movie. No, when it came down to best friend, the other guys were friends. I mean, Poe Dameron and the other guys. This guy was basically a joke. And again, the whole thing is they never planned for you to be the lead character. And when they thought that Finn was going to be the lead character, this is where the racists started to lose their minds, because they didn't want a black man to have power in their franchise, because their franchise was all about their fantasies. Same thing with Rey. They were upset because a white woman was taking over their white male fantasy space, and the whole thing is he's thinking that, oh, if he continues to complain about it, people will go out here and continue to sympathize with him. Well, I got no sympathy for John Boyega, and I got no sympathy for a reason, because John Boyega can basically sit there and complain about white Star Wars, or he could start working with black creators to go out here and create a black sci-fi or fantasy franchise that creates a vehicle for him. I mean, this is how you basically change the game, because you're not going to change their game. Their game was made by them for them, and the only way you can change the game is to go out here and play your own game. That's the way black creators have to do it, and that's what I've been doing here for the last almost 20 years, working on the SJS Direct imprint and the stories of the SJS Direct imprint, because I know for years I used to submit books to these white publishers, but then I realized that these white publishers have no interest in uplifting or empowering black people, because their core customer base is white males and white females. So if I want to go out here and create roles for black people, I've got to go out here and start my own business. And this is where the stories are going to be for black actors like John Boyega. And John Boyega should be out here contacting a black creator like myself regarding trying to find a fantasy story franchise to be a part of, or going out and finding other creators like Kevin Grievous, the creator of Blue Marvel, who has his own Darkstorm comics. I mean, he should be out here contacting independent black creators who have lots of great material, and hoping to again secure some rights and basically starting to shoot up a film short or a film test sequence. I mean, he should be out here spending his time and money going out here looking for the next big property, because Star Wars in and of itself is a dying property, and complaining about a dying property is a waste of his time and a waste of his resources. Complaining about Star Wars isn't going to get him that next job. No, getting that next job is going to be all about getting himself in the presence of a writer like myself to go out here and buy the rights to some new material, and basically get those rights to some new material, and basically working towards doing things like trying to finance putting a film together with a new character and create some new stories. Because again, Star Wars is a 40, 50-year-old franchise. It's basically on its way out, and you think John Boyega would be more focused on the future, more focused on a future as related to black fantasy, because we already see that black fantasy and black science fiction is a growing market. I mean, every effort that has been made to kill black fantasy has completely failed. I mean, Marvel Studios tried to kill black fantasy with the release of Black Panther, but Black Panther went on to become the #1 movie in 2018, made $1 billion at the box office, and showed us that there's an audience for black fantasy films. And every effort that has been made to try to sabotage that market, whether it be box office failures like A Wrinkle in Time or Black Panther Wakanda Forever, has not really basically stifled or drove down interest in black fantasy. No, black fantasy and black science fiction is a growing market, and I see it growing every day when I go to places like Kickstarter and I see guys like Greg Burnham coming out with comics like Bridges or Search for Siddiqa, or I see guys like Kevin Grevioux coming out with his Darkstorm comics. There's a growing market for black fantasy, and John Boyega could get in on the ground floor on the next black film, but instead of him going to black creators, he continues to seek out white validation. He continues to seek out white validation and approval, complaining about Star Wars being so white. So what? Star Wars is so white. George Lucas basically was the creator of Star Wars. Again, it's made by a white man. It's made for white audiences, but you want to be in on the ground floor of the next big thing. Again, John Boyega is young enough to be able to, again, basically salvage his career from the cinematic and creative box office failure of the sequel trilogy. He can go out here and rebuild his career if he were smart, but sadly, he's so spellbound and caught up in trying to fit himself into a black box that's acceptable to white producers and still trying to get favor with white producers that he can't see the damage he's doing to his own career. I mean, I could care less about having to be the background of some white person's story. No, I'm out here putting my fingers to the keyboard in a story where black people are the center of that story, and I'm focusing on making stories where black people are the heroes and showing us a world of people who are black. That's what I'm focusing on. I'm focusing on us being the center of our world and not the center of and the background of somebody's world, because that's all you're going to get in Star Wars. That's all that Billy D. Williams got being Lando Calrissian. That's all Samuel L. Jackson got playing Mace Windu. That's all John Boyega got playing Finn. No, I'm not wasting my time with that stuff. No, I'd rather create a world where John Haynes can be the center of the SJS Direct universe, where he can run into characters like Isis the Goddess Next Door, or Esteem, his personal assistant, or create a world of vampires with a character like Lilith Graves in Eternal Night. I would rather go out here and create original stories and that feature characters that are black as the lead and have them be the center of that story, because to me, Star Wars is not a big deal. No, Star Wars is a old, decrepit, 50-year-old franchise that basically has run out of gas, and if it's already run out of gas, it's on its way to the cinematic junkyard. So why would I want to sit there and waste time complaining about Star Wars and how we can't touch their heroes? No, y'all can keep y'all heroes. I'll go out here and make my own. No thanks, I don't need your Star Wars. I'll go make my own SJS Direct universe, and that's the way I see things. I don't see myself, again, seeking the validation of an old, tired franchise that basically ran itself into the ground. No, any forward-thinking person would be saying, hey, the Star Wars franchise, it's basically over at this point. It was over back in 1983 when Return of the Jedi came out. When Return of the Jedi came out, Star Wars was basically over, but George Lucas wanted to milk a few more dollars out of that dead franchise, and this franchise basically died again in 2019 with, again, The Last Jedi, or 2018 with The Last Jedi. I mean, The Last Jedi was basically the last gasp for Star Wars, and John Boyega would do better if he understood that it's not about us existing in a white world, but about us walking out of that black box that's acceptable to white people, because the only thing they're going to see you as a black man is a bumbling, stumbling idiot, or basically, again, the background character of their stories, because it's their world. And again, if you buy into their world, you're buying into white supremacy. So you got to start thinking about creating your world and creating different fantasy worlds for you to escape in. That's what a smart, forward-thinking fantasy writer like myself does. Think about, again, creating a different world for brothers and sisters where we can imagine ourselves as the center, imagine ourselves as the center of a world that's all around us, and imagine a story we control the narrative of. I mean, I don't care about touching their heroes or being a Jedi in their order. No, I can create an entire world that revolves around us. That's what I'm focused on, and that's where John Boyega gets to get his mind right if he hopes to, again, survive in this business. Because, again, when we look at the wins of this business since 1998, it's guys like Wesley Snipes who are the ones who innovate things. I mean, Wesley Snipes basically reimagined Blade to his vision and saved the entire superhero movie genre, and he did that because he was thinking about making his own hero and not thinking about playing somebody's friend. No, he was all about business, and he was all about business in making the Blade character his own, making the Blade character, again, a center of attention, where it was, again, all-black vampire world and an all-black fantasy. Again, yeah, there were white guys, but they were the bad guys, but the whole thing is he made Blade into something great because his mind was right. And again, he was not thinking about playing the friend. He was thinking about being a boss, and that's where John Boyega's whole mind is messed up. He's not thinking about being a boss, and that's why he's still sitting here complaining about business instead of getting out here and taking care of his business the way that guys like me, like I do. Now, if you want to check out my action-packed fantasy on the SJS Direct imprint, you can find my action-packed SJS Direct Universe stories like the ISIS series, the Steam series, the John Haynes series, and books like the Spinsterella Trilogy and Eternal Night. You can find all of those books in paperback and Kindle format on Amazon.com, and there you can enter a world of black characters who are the lead and center heroes, and you can enter a world where you don't have to be the background, the best friend, or the sidekick, but you can be seeing a black person being the lead in a world where they're going out here and fight and being a part of a fantasy world where it's imagined where black people are front and center. And if you want to see me make more videos taking celebrities to the barbecue, you can drop a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Coming to paperback and e-readers, the Steam Season of the Witch Girl. The aspiring angel takes on a wicked teenage witch in this action-packed, all-new Esteem series adventure. Pre-order your copy of Esteem Season of the Witch Girl at Amazon.com and other online booksellers. Now available in paperback and e-readers, Isis, Dark Incubus. The goddess next door gets enthralled in a romantic entanglement with an evil incubus in this all-new Isis series adventure. Get your copy of Isis, Dark Incubus in paperback and e-readers today. Support black-owned and black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.